All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here today, Larry Warren here at Clear Passage. I'm here today with person who has become a longtime friend. She is our very first bowel obstruction patient. A bit famous she is. Dorise, you are a rock star, both figuratively and metaphorically and literally. Can you tell us a little bit about your extensive history with abdominal adhesions?
Well, no one really wants to talk about stuff like this. However, I'm here to bare my soul. Yeah, I found myself in a whirlwind of issues in 2006. I was just, they diagnosed me with left breast cancer, and I had left breast lumpectomy, I believe it's called, done, and it ended up being benign. It was all contained. The mutated cells were all contained within this massive unknown origin, I was told.
Uh-huh.
In 3 weeks after having that done, I swelled up like I was 9 months pregnant. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I was having problem urinating. I couldn't eat. I was throwing up everything I ate. Even soft foods and liquids I started not being able to keep down. So my poor husband rushed me to the emergency, and they admitted me immediately and put an NG tube down my nose into my stomach to relieve pressure that was trapped in there. It was so painful, Larry. I thought I was going to die. And I thought I was going to just like bust out my stomach. Anyway, I was in the hospital there with the NG tube that first time, and it relieved the pressure, and I started to have a small bowel movement after they did a colonoscopy on me and an endoscopy. Sent me home, and within a short period of time after that, like within 3 days, I was back in the ER with a full small bowel obstruction.
Wow. So it all started first with a lumpectomy at your breast, but then
I'd never had bowel issues or anything like that since. It was a very strange thing.
Wow.
So I had that laparoscopic exploratory surgery, and they were able to release adhesion on the bowel, the small intestine, when I went back in for the emergency surgery.
So, and then you were good since then, or what happened
No,
next?
no, not at all, Larry. I went downhill fast for me. Within about, well, I knew right away I was obstructing after I had that exploratory surgery and they released the adhesion. I knew I was obstructing again, and I had to go back to the emergency. It was like 5 weeks later. It was so soon. Again, the NG tube down my throat, and I couldn't clear. They tried enemas. It was so painful. I was screaming in my hospital bed for God to take me because it hurt so bad.
Right.
My surgeon came in and said, all my tests were normal, Mr. Hunt, he told my husband. There's nothing we can do but wait and see if this resolves. And my husband insisted they do exploratory. Well, I wasn't getting any relief, and no pain drugs they gave me cut off this pain. And I could feel myself just tearing inside from the pressure. They rushed me into surgery. I ended up having appendectomy. I had because the appendix, it didn't rupture, but it swelled up so much, and then it deflated in there. They removed that and found adhesions everywhere.
All right. So this was like the second or third surgery?
This third surgery. My doctor had to put in a mesh because I herniated through the abdominal wall.
Wow.
So that was my third surgery where I had my first mesh put in. Within 30 months of that first obstruction that I was admitted to the hospital for, within 30 months, I had 10 surgeries for small bowel obstruction, and 6 of them were for full surgeries. I was obstructing again on that 30th month. I was obstructed. I couldn't eat, having all the same issues again. I had all these meshes in my stomach. Every time I obstructed from then on, my doctor put a mesh in because I broke through the abdominal wall from swelling up so much.
So you had 6 resections and 10 surgeries, some of
No,
those just to remove adhesions then?
no resections. I was lucky and never lost any of my intestines. I just kept having
Incredible.
adhesions strangle them, causing
Oh,
obstructions
oh my God.
with kinks and loops and all these strange things. The adhesions just went out of control. And
I'm so
I
sorry.
didn't know any better. I'm from a small town in the California Sierras. At that time, I was 50 years old. I thought I was healthy, and my body was just going crazy with these adhesions. They were killing me. And I kept having these surgeries and these meshes put in. And at the time, I did not know any better. My husband didn't know any better because my doctor was always saving my life. I tried to see other specialists, Larry, but they kept referring me right back to my surgeon because he's the one who put in the meshes. He knew my body the best.
Of course. Right.
Okay, so leading
Yeah.
up to you, how I found you and why I found you.
I mean, it would have been kind of hard to stay hopeful after all of that. And
I
oh
don't
my
know
God,
how I did it. I was
two
in
and a
bed,
half years.
bound most of the time,
Mhm.
homebound,
Mm, mm,
not going to family events. I'm a singer, and I had the privilege to sing with a fairly well-known rock and roll band that had hits in the 60s, and they still do tribute concerts. I got to guest sing for them many times and do backup performance and also do photography for them. I had to give all that up because I didn't know how I was going to be.
well,
Um, but how I found you was I was at the end of my rope. I was obstructed again. This was the beginning of November 2008. And I went back to the ER because, of course, I couldn't eat, drink. I was throwing up. I was very dehydrated. They put me on the NG tube again and IVs and pain meds very lightly because that slows the motility also, and try to wait out this
mm,
small bowel obstruction. They didn't know
mm,
what to do with me. I had all these meshes in me. Also, during that time, I had bilateral inguinal hernias, which are right where your legs bend. And I
mm,
went in and had a surgery and had a mesh put in on each side in one surgery.
mm.
And that's really caused problems with me walking. My biggest problem with all this was all these meshes. They kept causing more adhesions.
Right.
It was a vicious surgery, adhesion cycle I couldn't get off. My doctor told me, look, there's nothing else we can do for you. The best I can do is go in and try to remove as many organs that you don't need in your body, remove them so there's nothing for the adhesions to attach to and to strangle. And I sat there just flabbergasted and taken aback because let me understand this. So where would all my body fluids go? Well, I'd have bags, ostomies, I think they call them, to contain these fluids. And that's how I would have to live the rest of my life because I was obstructed and they couldn't get to the adhesions because of all these meshes. And I
Mm,
was so densely adhered.
mm, 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 mm.
And I went home from the ER. I had him remove the NG tube. He told me if I didn't have the surgery, I would die. Well, I felt if I had the surgery, I was going to die. There had to be something else. I didn't know what. A girlfriend of mine, over the next 3 days from that moment, beginning in November 2008, we went on the internet and tried to find something to help my situation other than having this Whipple surgery done.
Oh, that's a terrible surgery. I mean, they take a third of your stomach or a half of your stomach and your gallbladder, and they just take out so much stuff.
All the
But
intestines.
you
Yeah,
were
all
just
the
creating
intestines, the spleen,
mm,
everything. Anyway, I thought, oh my gosh, I'll never sing again. My life with my husband. What am I going to do? I had to close my business. I had an antique and old time photo studio in a historic town here in California, and it was just thriving. I had to close that because I couldn't run it. Anyway, here I am in this dilemma. I could feel myself getting tighter and tighter, and the inside of my body was swelling more and more every day. Once I left that hospital and I knew I was up against the wall. Well, she found your website by accident. I don't know how she actually worded it back in 2008, but your website came up and she said, look, these people, they're not using any kind of surgery and they're opening fallopian tubes and women are getting pregnant. And I had already been through a total hysterectomy. So I knew I had a lot of scar tissue down there because I could barely walk. I could barely move. I was being pulled forward, so I couldn't stand up straight.
of course.
And so, am I going on too much, Larry?
No.
Okay,
No.
so she found you on the website, and immediately I jumped on the website, and I just was like a sponge because you guys were talking about adhesions, scar tissue. You were actually talking about it and what it could do to a woman's reproductive system.
Right.
So I sat there, and I'm not going to lie, I got up and I got a real cold glass of water and I held it to the inside of my palms just to calm myself down. And I thought, now this is going to sound strange, but this is my reasoning at this point. If you could open up those little teeny tubes for women, what about the larger tubes? What about the intestines? Do you think maybe you could unlock some of these kinks or kind of release the pressure in my stomach so it goes down? Anything. So I called your phone number and talked to a very nice lady. And of course, I'm kind of shaking right now because it brings up a lot of emotion of loneliness and being alone in the world with this stupid medical complicated body, the medical issues with this body of mine that was so complicated. No specialists wanted to touch me. They kept sending me home from Stanford to Mayo. He kept sending me back to my surgeon because he knew me best.
I'll interrupt you because I
Yes.
remember talking to you. Somehow she must have transferred the phone to me, and she said, there's this woman. She's asking me these strange questions because the only way we knew that we were addressing adhesions and decreasing adhesions was that we were opening blocked fallopian tubes. And we were never intending to. We were just trying to decrease adhesions for people at that time that were having pain. But the chief of staff of the hospital here was totally shocked that we were opening blocked fallopian tubes. He's a gynecologist surgeon.
Wow.
And I remember you said to me, and you've saved this question you've asked has saved a lot of lives to this point, Reese. You said, Mr. Warren, if you can open those little tubes with your hands, can you open bigger tubes? And I said, what do you mean? Can you clear adhesions in the bowel? And I kind of thought about it. And I thought, well, it makes sense. I mean, we haven't done this before, but it just makes sense. That's exactly what we do is we decrease adhesions. So You can take it from there. You decided to come.
Yeah. First off, calling your office was great because I finally felt like I could take a deep breath. She told me someone was going to call me back shortly and talk with me about my situation and see if I was even a fit for your protocol.
Mm-hmm.
And so hung up the phone, and I don't think it was very long at all. Belinda called me back,
Uh-huh.
and her sweet little voice, she was like an angel from heaven for me. She spent time with me on the phone, asked me about my situation, and wanted to know my history. She wanted to know the other incidents that happened in my life, major falls, accidents, infections, other surgeries,
Right.
incidents that happened, because she explained to me that the network that adhesions can grow in the body can grow all over the body. They might not just stay contained in one area,
That's
which
right.
helped
It's
me to
how the body
understand.
heals, right?
Yeah, the body just automatically goes to healing. Well, my body was in full steam ahead 24/7.
Right.
I couldn't believe that just having a lumpectomy would cause me to have all these abdominal surgeries and to have 9 meshes in my body. And so when I told her what I was facing, she kind of calmed me down, and she didn't know, and she did pass the phone to you. And together, the three of us decided, well, I knew my back was up against the wall. I knew I wanted to try your worm technique
Right.
and clear passages approach to adhesions before I'd even get that Whipple done, the Whipple surgery. And I had it scheduled to go. And I thought, no, I'm going to clear passage. My husband was in agreement. I thought, honey, I'm not going to live that way. And maybe I won't even survive. I've got to go to these people. It was a pull like I've never had before in my life to gravitate toward Belinda and you.
Yeah.
So within 3 days, I was on a plane, and Sunday I landed in Gainesville, Florida. And that Monday, I hobbled through the door, hunched over like an old lady. I refused to use the walker that I used coming to you. I had wheelchair assist in the airport. And I was in so much pain.
You were so bent over. Oh my God. Oh,
Yeah. So, and you guys made me feel so warm and welcome. And I was guided very gently into another world, it seemed like to me. Gentle music was playing, a very comfortable treatment. Um, what's that called? Not a lounge, but the treatment table.
room. Yeah, the treatment room, right?
Yes, the lighting was perfect, the sound was perfect, and you and Belinda came in and welcomed me, and immediately I was started on treatment after I had a thorough exam by Belinda. 45 minutes. She wanted to know every fall and everything, and had a diagram where I have all my pains. So she knew, and it was like a puzzle, and it became so clear to me what the heck was happening in my body. I
So
knew I was in the right
it started to make sense for you what you were feeling inside and the history you had gone through and how that had brought you to this particular state of unhealth, of internal bonds, these straitjackets inside.
Exactly. And it was the straitjacket feeling. Exactly. I mean, I had so much limited body movement. My gait was messed up. One leg was shorter than the other.
Yeah.
I was hunched over on one side versus the other. My neck was all jacked up. I had migraines off the roof constantly. I was a mess. I really was a mess.
Yeah, you were. You were. And for us, it was like, I mean, we knew that we were good with adhesions, and we had never treated anyone like you. Your we had certainly treated a lot of complicated patients, but you were perhaps the most complicated to date, except for right up there with Belinda, who was in that kind of shape a few years earlier until
Right.
we figured out how to help her out. So we just went into it and never really tried to talk you into coming. We just kind of said, this is what we do,
Right.
and let's figure out together if this is something that's right for you, which is what we do, of course.
Yeah, no, I took a leap of faith. I decided to invest in myself and just go for it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
And
what was
because of
that?
Belinda's suffering brought me to you, though.
Yeah,
Because of what she went through and what you guys had to develop in order to even get her to be functioning and plugged back into society again.
right. I mean, that's what started us, of course, was the debilitating pain that she was in after surgery and massive radiation therapy that
Yeah.
left her with a frozen pelvis. Everything was stuck together, just like it
Right.
was with you.
Yeah. I had
So,
that frozen pelvis. My bladder was adhered to my abdominal wall. I had 8 kinks, maybe even 10, they told me, and a full on small bowel obstruction. So, I mean, taking 2 sips of water would make me nauseous. And
so what was that week like for you?
it was a trip, Larry.
Yeah.
It really was from that first day. That feeling of being able to not want to vomit after taking a few sips of water. I didn't realize right away, but after I got home or got back to my hotel, I realized I wasn't wanting to vomit after a couple of sips of water.
Mm,
I felt like it actually was going to be okay.
right,
So I wouldn't be dehydrated because I was so worried about that.
right,
That was
right.
the first thing I noticed that really changed for me. And also, I felt like I was moving a little bit easier.
And of course, that feeling that you want to vomit, that's because everything's so adhered, nothing further can go into your digestive tract. So when you
Yes.
have those adhesions that bad, so so that started to notice some relief there, and maybe a bit of ability to move easier, even that first day,
Yeah, because I did not unpack when I got there.
because you were here for
I
5 days.
felt when I got to the hotel room after I landed, I literally fell into the bed. I dug out a nightgown and my toothbrush, and I mean, so I wasn't unpacked when I got back to the hotel room.
Right.
I felt like I could get settled. I felt like, okay, this is gonna work. This is gonna work. This has got to work. And I got a fairly good night's sleep. Um,
And then you were here for 5 days that time.
yeah, I was there for 5 days.
And so what about day two, the midweek and
Oh yeah,
toward the
day
end of the
two.
week?
I
What can you
noticed,
recall?
and I kept notes. I keep little journals about things that have happened in my
Uh-huh.
life. And I looked back on those and I noticed that I was very emotional that second day. I don't know if it was from working on my body and releasing the toxins or whatnot, or fear of, wondering about all of this. And um, I was just very emotional. I noticed that.
Okay.
But the therapist, Belinda, and another therapist, my gosh, I can't remember her name. I want to say Kim. Her and Belinda were working on me, and they were working around my meshes at first.
Mhm.
Remember, I have all these meshes inside.
Right.
And so they were working around them, but I felt these little sensations inside my body on that second day. Like, I want to say little snapping, like rubber band snaps
Uh-huh.
or little pinpricks here and
Right.
there.
Right.
And they would work within my pain tolerance because I was very sensitive. and I was very swollen. So they were working with me, and I actually found myself working with them. They encouraged me to put my fingers on their what they were doing, so I could actually feel, oh my gosh, they're down farther than I thought they were. And they let me feel where they were working on in a tight pulling area. Am I just
Yes,
describing it
yes.
properly?
And I think maybe part of that is that we think of each patient as an expert in her body. Having lived in this body and being in there now, you can feel things and you know where things are bothering you. So we're not sitting up there on a high horse being holier than thou, calling
Yeah.
all the shots. We want to hear from you. We want to follow your feelings
Yeah.
as much as they come up of what's going on, because we just get better treatment. So it's like you're part of the treatment team.
Oh, it was great. And for the first time in my life, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm on a team here. I
Right.
can help guide them, I'm thinking in my head,
Yeah.
because I knew you guys were just working on the fallopian tube. So it was like, it was up to me to help guide you. But it was like you guys, your therapist and Belinda and you could follow these pulling sensations in my body. Some were already all the way to my hip, wrapped around toward my ribs,
Yeah.
pulling down toward my pelvis, pulling down my leg.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Slowly each day, I felt myself loosening up. I walked better that second day. And then the third day when I woke up, I was so excited and so ready to come in and work with my new team. They were able to get a little bit, you were able to get, I should say, a little bit more involved in the restriction that was happening within my bowel movements. We could feel a lot of gas rolling back and forth, and different pockets
Right.
in such. And slowly and methodically, that third day, I felt myself, I want to say, unwinding. I felt a lot more of those pinpricks, prickling feelings. And every time I felt that in my mind, I'm thinking like Pac-Man, you know, how it eat the little, it was like, oh, they're eating away the adhesions, which I knew you weren't.
Right.
But what I learned is what you're doing when you're working on me is you were fatiguing or releasing the adhesion from wherever it was attaching to and
Yeah.
causing a dysfunction. So either stretching it out, fatiguing, or snapping them off, whatever you were doing was, I could feel myself unwinding kind of inside, and my muscles loosening up, the tendons, the tissues, my blood flowing better. Well, by that fourth day, Larry, I couldn't believe it. It was my 50th birthday, okay? And I had been there for my going into my fourth day of treatment. And by the time my morning session was over, I felt like I was going to have a bowel movement after not having one for like, I want to say 7 weeks. It was a long time. And that evening, I had 5 bowel movements. That day, from that on, I had 5 bowel movements. And I don't know if I can say this or not, but I'm going to. But it was my birthday, and you and Belinda took me to a restaurant. And for the first time, I had salmon and mashed potatoes. And it was the best meal of my life because I could eat. I could sip water on that fourth day because I was already having bowel movements. And it was a wonderful feeling.
As I recall, you hadn't actually been able to ingest any solid food for weeks before you came to us.
Yeah, I was on full liquid. I went from soft foods to like blended and pureed baby type foods and protein shakes and
Like
whatnot.
6 weeks, so you had lost so much weight.
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
you ever came here, just because you couldn't get the nutrition in you because
Yes.
everything was so full.
I was malnourished. In
Backed
fact,
up.
my surgeon put on my medical record as a second diagnosis that I had anorexia.
Oh my God.
And it's horrible to get those things off of your medical record once they're
Oh
on
my
there. 'Cause
God.
it wasn't that I was anorexic. I
Of
simply couldn't
course.
eat. I was hungry. But as time goes on, you almost lose your desire to eat when you're obstructed.
Right.
You don't want to eat because it hurts. And it's just I broke through, or you broke through my body's restrictions enough so that my bowels opened up. And I have never had another small bowel surgery obstruction since I came to you. And I never had that Whipple surgery either. At the end of the 5 days, I ran into my husband's arm, pretty much jumped on him. I couldn't believe how good I felt.
Oh, honey.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was unreal. And I knew I had found an alternative. Canceled that surgery, went and saw my doctor. He wanted to know what the heck I did. He couldn't believe it. He said, I can't believe that they did that for you with your meshes in there. And we're successful.
Yeah.
So, although your treatments are firm, they're direct, they directly address the issue that was causing my problems. And that was the big difference in your therapy compared to all the other ones that I had tried. Myofascial release, just one thing at a time, visceral manipulation. You get an hour here and there. You might feel good immediately after, but there was no longevity of feeling good at all. Within that 1 week period of time there, it just totally saved my life, because I really do not believe I would have survived going through that Whipple surgery. I believe I would have bled out before they would have even had a chance to do what they wanted to do because of all the meshes.
Sure. And you were so weakened at the time anyway. So
Yeah.
how many years has it been and you've not had any other bowel surgery?
Since November of 2008. And they started in May of 2006. So I haven't had bowel obstruction surgery since that first week of coming to you.
15 or 16 years then.
It'll be 15 years in November.
Yeah.
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 But
Good.
just
Good.
real quick. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I've been talking so much.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You're the one. I mean, your case was just so extraordinary, and it was so breathtaking to be able to help you, and then subsequently to be able to understand how pervasive this problem is. I just read in Journal of the American Medical Association, bowel obstruction surgery is the second most common emergency surgery in the USA, and it carries the highest complication rate. Because when you think about it, when they're cut through the bowel, if a drop or two of the contents fall out into the body cavity, and they don't even see that, and they sew you back up again,
Yeah.
bacteria goes, wow, I'm in this wonderful, warm, moist, dark environment. I can grow. And so a fifth of the patients are back in the hospital within 30 days. So often from that, or from an inadvertent enterotomy where the surgeon just can't, and they can be brilliant and kind and compassionate doctors, most of them are, but they can't even see where they are. The adhesions are so thick, and oops, I slipped and I cut through another organ or into another organ.
Or nicked something.
Or nicked something. So you know about that. So
yes, and it's not a pretty surgery having full abdominal surgeries, because
right.
they literally have to cut these adhesions off of each organ, and it's just horrendous.
And the
Um,
problem is, of course, that then you have to heal from that surgery. So
yes,
what happens, and it happened with you, you just develop more adhesions. Again, no matter how kind and skilled the surgeon, they
right,
can't help but have adhesions for them because that's how the body heals.
right,
So
exactly.
we've not seen that, thank God, with the work that we've been doing. We've not seen that it causes the kind of trauma that creates a new healing event. So now I
Oh, right. Now,
nothing's cut or burned. Go ahead.
that that's so true. Now, for me, I have returned to the clinic for assistance. But let me take a step back. When I left your place, you gave me a bag full of, I call them my tools,
Mhm.
different size balls and hand gripping mechanisms to help me to work on myself every day.
Right,
Okay.
right,
My responsibility once I left there was to follow through. Well, I latched onto that like a life ring, and I've taken care of myself every day. I give myself a little treatment, sometimes at night before I go to sleep. And I stay on top of keeping myself as pliable as I possibly can.
mhm,
However, with my chronic adhesions, I developed a condition called mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS. And
mhm,
it's stemming from me having all these meshes inside of me.
right,
They're old meshes, and they're seeping into my body, my bloodstream, and whatnot, causing a chronic inflammatory response, thus having the MCAS.
right,
And so I've been on an immunotherapy treatment for about 3.5 years now, and it's tempered all that. Because every time I would eat, I would get like Mick Jagger lips, or my throat would start to close, or I'd get hives all over the place.
from the
And
messes,
it
right,
was because of the meshes. Every time something would happen, if I got sick, if I fell, I fainted once, and I fell right on my face and busted the teeth in the front of my face.
uh,
Had to have those repaired. I came back to you because you worked full, in that area once I healed and got my jaw, my TMJ, and my locked jaw. Every time I would yawn, it would lock, or eat something that was too, much that I would have to open my mouth too much. Larry, you helped to take care of that for me. And I mean, I had Bell's palsy at one point and mild stroke that restricted me from singing properly. And the scar tissue was growing all up in here.
right,
Consequently, I had to have a submaxillary gland removal from my cheek. They went in through my neck, and I developed scar tissue in there, pushing on my vocal cords. So I couldn't perform anymore. And Larry, I came to you, and I don't know all the little movements that you did, but you slowly and methodically unloosened all my cranial, my jaw, my ears, my neck, my shoulders, my lungs, my diaphragm. And I was able to do some pretty large concerts with Count Five after that, which was remarkable to me because I never thought I'd sing again. So thank you so much for doing that for me.
adhesions, just adhesions. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a very pleasant and wonderful ancillary um, visit. What it now we have so we went on and developed a diet guide when we
Oh,
realized how much what were have you used the diet guide and because
yes,
the
yes.
AMA says we'll eat a lot of fiber and the things that the AMA says are
Mm,
kind of the opposite of what people with that have recurring bowel obstructions are
yeah,
facing because it tends to make plugs. And so
right.
we created that as a diet guide. And of course, it's free on the website. So,
Yes, it is. And
um,
yeah, that
has
diet guide is awesome, Larry.
it been useful?
Oh, it's been so useful, and it's been tweaked, and it's gotten better over the years, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
has helped me because gastroenterologist insists on me having a high fiber diet, and not if I want to go into a full small a small bowel obstruction. I'm going to avoid that.
it's
I
wonderful.
get fiber in smaller doses.
Right.
I follow a lot of the guidelines that you have proven to actually, clinically help people in my situation. The other thing, not just with the diet guide, is you offer help for people on your website who are having small bowel obstructions right now and don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, but the diet guide is essential. It helped me to narrow down into what was going to work for me. Some things worked,
Mhm.
some things didn't. But I stay on a fairly soft diet.
Right.
I take a pre and probiotic with digestive enzymes before I eat anything. I stay
Okay.
hydrated,
Hmm.
and I try to walk and move my body as much as possible. I meditate. I follow your stretching guides that work for me. And yeah, it's helped keep me plugged in. Uh, and over the years, when I have had flare-ups where I haven't been able to release a partial obstruction, I don't even go to the ER anymore. They can't get the NG tubes down inside of me anymore anyway. I
Hmm.
go to you if I can't help myself at home. That's my choice, because down at the Gainesville office, I know you have several branches and some that are closer to me, but I choose to go to you because you're the base unit. You've helped me from the beginning. You're like family to me. I love you guys so much. You've taken excellent care of me, and we've become very good friends because of all this.
Yeah.
And use me as a guide to do and use as you will to better whatever you guys do, because I believe in your approach to adhesion maintenance and care, and somebody like me that gets chronically obstructed.
Yeah.
I believe it's a wonderful alternative than getting surgery. So that's why I'm here. I'm bearing my soul with you today. So
And I should explain that. Oh, and by the way, I'm been told that if people who call in or have questions can receive a free consult for the first five. But the I want to explain that for most of the patients that we treat with this condition, they don't need to come back. We set them up and they're on their way, or they know if they ever need to come back, and maybe but
yes,
5%, maybe 7% of people will come back for more work. In your case, having so many meshes, you've got like 12 different meshes, I think, inside your body.
nine.
Nine, it's just and they're causing inflammation constantly. So for you, you have the unfortunate situation that your body's gonna keep creating adhesions. These
Right,
little we have some inflammation here. Let me go send some cross links in to help lay down in that area of Dorise's body where things are inflamed. So
right,
that you have to maintain it um,
right,
more than 90% of 95% of the people that we see, and
right.
have come back once or twice during that time just because of that.
Right. And I do want to add, most people don't have to return. I do know that.
Yeah.
Um, when I have returned, I haven't come for like full 20 hours.
No.
Anywhere between 4 and maybe 10 hours at the most. At the most. Maybe I would say 6 or 7 hours
Yeah.
is probably an average when I've come back for what I call tune-ups.
Right. Over 14, 13 years. So that's
Yes.
not too
And
bad. And
yeah.
you have your life back. And what's your life like now then?
Well, I got to go out into my garden and fuss around with my flowers today. My husband just started beekeeping, and so I'm having fun being his assistant, his arm candy, working on his bees.
That's nice. And if you wanted to, can you sing to large groups?
Yeah, I can sing, and hope to be doing some performing this summer, winter and fall and winter, and maybe even get some studio work in that I've been asked to do, and maybe even finish up an album that's half done.
Wonderful.
But looking forward to singing with my good friends and getting to play music with Roy Cheney and my other bandmates. Um, they've been great, and they've been wanting me to come and perform more, and sometimes I couldn't. So I'm looking forward to being able to do those things and travel with my husband. I enjoy my animals and do a lot of things in the community. I make blankets and donate them to the Shriners Children's Hospital, and people going through dialysis and kidneys and chemotherapy and radiation, all those crappy things. I donate beautiful blankets that somehow I create, and I've done a lot of them, over 325 blankets I've donated in
Oh
probably
my
the
God.
last 7 years. So
These are beautiful pieces that you crochet the whole
yeah,
thing, and then they're gorgeous, and you give them away to people that are in trouble. So
yeah, that's kind of my therapy, to kind of give back and let people know, hey, you're not alone, and a stranger even cares, and that's just a little way I can pay it forward. But you guys gave me back a productive life, and I know you're there for me if I get in trouble again.
you are a wonderful human being, Doris, and it has been our pleasure and continues to be our pleasure to know you.
I'm here for anyone too. If anyone wants to talk with me, or I'm open for any. If some people aren't comfortable going public, so private message. But Clear Passage is a great alternative, and I'm so happy I took the effort and found you guys. And
So I'm going to tell people how they can find us and find out more, and then maybe if you can mention at the end how they can get in touch with you if they want to, or they can contact us and say, I'd like to talk to Doris.
Absolutely.
But our phone number is in the U.S., so you'd have to dial a 1 if you're overseas, 352, which spells FLA on your little phone because we're in Florida in the home office, 352 339 6606. Website, of course, is clearpassage.com. If you just click the little thing that says apply for therapy or get more information, we'll give you information. If you complete a medical history form and you actually go through the 20 minutes or so, it'll complete to complete that and give us the kind of history that we need to know to make an informed decision. We're glad to have a conversation with you by telephone. There's no charge at all, just like we did with Dorise 13 years ago, to say that, is this something that is appropriate for you or not? We're not going to try to sell you anything. We're just going to say it straight, because this is life and death stuff. This is not anything where you're trying to sell whatever widgets.
Yeah, no, you guys never approached me that way either. And, the clinical studies that you've done over the years that are on your website also were, just very intriguing to me. You put your efforts out to make things better. And yeah.
We want to be able to speak to the physicians and look people in the eye and say, this is what I know and this is what our success rates are, because they've been measured, and our latest studies were co-authored by surgeons from Harvard and Stanford and Washington, St. Louis University, all very famous research facilities. I'm supposed to mention also that we're not just in Florida. The
Oh,
programs are generally just for a week, so you fly into any of our locations from Los Angeles or Dallas or Manhattan or St. Louis or London if you're overseas and still in the Western world in Europe. Um, or here in Florida, we have a fabulous therapist as well up near the Canadian border just outside of Detroit, Michigan. So for those of you in Toronto area. Um, and so how would people get in touch with you? Or are you is there a forum they should contact you, or shall they
they can
maybe
get a hold of me
post
through
something?
Facebook, and
Okay.
private message me and let me know they saw the video, and then I'll accept their friendship that way.
Will we see your name? Do they know your name now? It's so many
Dorise
platforms.
Hunt, Doris, like Sam E. So Doris with an E, last name Hunt.
Okay.
And or they can contact your office and say, "Hey, I want to talk to that lady," and then we can get hooked up together through the office somehow.
Dorise, it's been wonderful touching base and seeing your beautiful smiling face. We're so proud of you, what you're doing, and how you are giving back to kids in trouble and to people in trouble, and how many people you thrill when you sing your rock and rolls. You have a gorgeous voice, and
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. Give my best to Belinda. I love you guys, and ciao, I guess.
ciao. Thank you all for attending.
Bye.
Bye.